So this is my pirate demo for stage and film makeup. For this demo, I got a pirate who's got some super tan skin, so that's something we're going to be doing. We've got some darkening around the eyes, some general older age going on, and sun damage going on. He's got a ceremonial scar on his forehead that is the Norse symbol for serpent. He's going to have a wart. And he's going to have some pretty bad burn scars on one side of his face. Probably like hot oil or something got thrown on him. I'm going to make my eyebrows bushy. I'm going to be a little bit sunburnt. And that's my goal. So we have to start with the prosthetics. We're gonna use scar wax for the wart and the scar, and for the one down there, the big burn scar, we're gonna use some cotton, some latex, maybe some tissue. So the first thing we're going to do is start with latex. We're going to tear that little cotton pad up into some kind of chunks. You can use a cotton ball. You can even dissect Q-tips if you have to. But this scar is going to go over the corner of my mouth, which is going to make it look really cool. So as soon as I've got my blobs and my stringy pieces, whatever I've got for my scar, you're going to apply this the way we've learned to apply. Put a bed of latex down. Now this is really close to my mouth, and I can get it on my lip, but I don't want to get it in my mouth. It's not going to kill you, but it's just not great. Set the cotton in the latex. And for this, I'm going to work in kind of small patches and get the cotton down in small patches before I saturate it in the latex, because I'm kind of designing the shape of this. I want to get pieces on my jawline because that's going to disrupt the smooth line of my jaw and make the scar look really obvious and kind of gnarly. And then I don't want it to be in a super square rectangle, so I got to make sure I cross the line of the rectangle that's kind of formed by my face here. So nice and uneven, some stringy bits, some blobby bits, and saturate that cotton with latex as a top coat. Now I'm going to work on the wart and the rune scar on my forehead with our friend Nose Wax. And the first thing I need to do is get that little base for the wart. I'm going to start with the wart. And remember, we don't want that little landing pad that's kind of flat and flush to the nose, and you wouldn't know it was there other than it's going to help the wart stick to your face. So I'm going to click a little lily pad and push that onto my face. Like a big booger on the outside of your nose. Get that all blended smooth, and then you make your little small pea lentil sized ball of wax that you're gonna stick on top of that to be your wart. Make sure it's stuck. It's stuck. Now for the Norse scar, I'm going to start with a little piece of wax that I'm going to roll out into a long worm that's going to kind of go the length of my forehead. This scar is a little bit trickier because I want it to have some aspects of a raised scar, but then I want it to have a sunken middle. So I need to kind of trace out the shape of the scar on my forehead with the wax and then carve the shape of the scar into it. So I'm sort of giving myself a star-shaped raised area with the wax, and then I'll carve the scar into it. It's always helpful to have something nearby that isn't your fingers to help blend the scar wax. So this is my trusty spoon. I'm obviously having issues with it falling off, so when you have issues with it, that's not just you. Starting to get a pretty good blend there. Blend that out. I always have to wash my hands off a lot when I'm using scar wax. I'm going to make some little tiny worms now to do the little X for this little serpent rune. A makeup wipe is probably the most useful thing I've found to help blend the wax. But I want to get the wax mostly where it's going to go before I do that, and that helps really smooth out the wax. And you can see now I've got a nicely blended like little star shape. And now I want to carve the scar into it. And I'm using a mechanical pencil with the lead all the way retracted. You can use whatever you have handy that's a little bit pointy. It shouldn't be too blunt. And as I'm pulling the wax out and making sure I'm not getting any little nubs of wax stuck in the crease. And then using the end of a paintbrush to kind of make the scar a little bit wider and a little bit rounded so that it's not just like a chasm cut in my face. And I'm happy with that. The latex is dry on this, so I'm going to apply a beauty coat of latex on it. And that's just going to help smooth it out and make the lumps of cotton a little more natural scar looking. Wait for the latex to dry and you're ready to start putting your makeup on. So these are 3 foundations. That one is my actual foundation. We're not going to use it. This one is the same tone. It's an olive tone, but it's darker, and I'm going to use that. But before I do anything, I have to powder those prosthetics or they're not going to look great. Remember to powder. No, really, remember to powder. Your makeup will not go on these things nicely if there is no powder on them. It's really going to help blend it to your skin. Now we start with foundation, and I use a big brush for my foundation. You can use a sponge if you want for this part. And you can clearly see this is not my natural color, but it's going to work great for tan sunburnt Tori, the male pirate. Remember to use a small brush to get your prosthetics because you really have to push the foundation in there, and you need a smaller brush to kind of work it around all those nooks and crannies. And it takes some time, so be patient. Now we're going to use a darker foundation to kind of start to give me some sun damage and some contouring at the same time. I'm just kind of dabbing it on with my finger, starting in my shadowy places but pulling out. And I want it to look spotty. So I put that kind of everywhere you'd put your contour, plus a little more. And now I'm really starting to look suntanned. Now I'm going to do some Old Age and some contouring at the same time. I always check to see how much product is on my brush before sticking it on my face. And now I'm starting with my nasolabial fold there. Get the little corner of your mouth, that little old age frown. The eye sockets should be pretty sunken. My pirate's not super old, he's just lived hard. So he's going to have some old ageness to him, but it's more from living hard, being out in the sun, damage happening to his skin, and doing that. And I think he's probably maybe late 40s, early 50s. But he's still going to have some pretty cracked skin from all that damage. This is the little underlip chin thing. I just did the triangle for my jowls a second ago. I unfocus my eyes a lot to see what I've done, to see what it looks like. So that's all the squinty, blurry looks I give the camera, is me unfocusing my eyes to see what I've done. It's hard to know whether you've gone too far on a lot of these things until you've done the whole face. There's some darkness in my contouring. I notice I'm not blending it, I'm kind of dabbing it so that my skin looks a little blotchy. And that's really what I want. I want to have that kind of blotchy, speckled skin that you get as your skin loses its youthfulness. It's from these years of pirating around the Smoky Mountains. Any place you can shade to make your features look more sunken is going to help you, so I'm just shading around my nose and mouth to make those features more sunken. Now I'm adding that kind of angular contour line that's a little more masculine and a little more old age looking. I'm going to just kind of dab that in with a brush and then sort of blot it around. Again, I don't actually want it to be super smooth. I want it to look kind of blotchy and dirty. And I always make sure that my contour line is a little wider towards the ear. Now for sunburn, I'm going to use the cheek color that comes in the Mehron kit, so it's just a reddish cream. And I'm using my finger to kind of dot that on every place my face would catch the sun. So that's down my nose, on my cheeks. Also going to get some on my forehead. And on my chin. And even on my ears. I also put foundation in my ears so that they would look suntanned as well. This brush my foundation brush that I just stuck up to my face, that doesn't have any foundation on it. It's just the residual from doing my foundation, and it helps me to blend that out without blending it out too much. There's my sunburnt ears, and my sunburnt chin. Starting to look real sunny. We're going to put some fine lines and wrinkles, especially around my eyes. We're going to age my eye socket up, get those crow's feet in, and we're going to have some lines coming down, fine lines coming down into my cheek off the eye socket. Doing old age makes you make the best faces. I'm adding some contouring here up the sides of my nose because I feel like I need some. I try to work in steps, but sometimes as I'm going, I realize, oh, I need to do that, I need to do that. The more systematic you can be, the kind of quicker and easier it's going to go, but you're always going to find that you need to balance the look as you're going along. So that's adding more, taking more away. I'm using a Q-tip here to lift color without blending the line away. Just kind of using the Q-tip to dab the color up. And the ever important highlight. This is just a foundation that's really bright. Or it's a foundation type color. It's like a skin type color. Now remember, the highlight in general goes underneath the shadow for these fine lines and wrinkles. Now we're going to add in our bushy brows. And I'm just using my brown for this. It is not the best color, but it's going to work. So I'm using my natural brow line. I'm just going to pull the line out. So these are going to look a little bit cartoony, but that is okay. If I wanted to do more realistic brows, I'd probably cover my own and make a actual hair appliance. So now I'm going to start painting the scars, which means we're nearing the end. I'm going to start with some brown, just kind of dash it down that line that I've carved out for the middle of that little serpent-shaped scar. And if you find that you've got more color than you wanted, you can come back in with your foundation color and kind of blot that out. Paint the inside of the scar first, and it's just a general dark color. Scars are sometimes darker and redder than your natural skin. Sometimes they're lighter. It just depends on the scar. And I'm going to use a little bit of red, a little bit of brown there to kind of show some irritation type lines around the center of the scar. One of the things that's kind of fun that happens to scars is they don't particularly like the sun, so they tend to get irritated when they get sunlight. And his silly pirate scar in the middle of his forehead. My idea is that he got this done some drunken night in some town to honor his Norse ancestors. Now I've done a sunken old age look, but I'm going to do a tired pirate look on top of my sunken old age. So I'm using the bluey purple color here to sort of show the tired veininess. Q-tips are great to remove extra product. And a little bit of red for those sunken tired eyes too. Now I'm going to give myself some nice pirate liner. And my pirate's got some big, thick under eye liner that kind of drips down over his eye socket. Kind of like Floki in Vikings, but not quite that much. I don't know if it's on purpose or if he's just been super sweaty today and his eyeliner will be running. To balance this heavy under eyeliner, I'm going to put a little bit of liner above the eye and kind of blend it out so that it's sort of a smoky eye all around. But I really want the focus and the concentration to be on the under eyeliner. I always find that looks a little bit more piratey and a little bit more masculine in terms of eyeliner, if that's a thing. Now I'm going to start on the burn scar. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give the skin where the cotton isn't. So everywhere it's kind of flatter to the face, I'm going to give that a sort of all over reddishy, skinny texture. So I'm blotting in some red into that. And mixing some brown in with the red to kind of make it, the red is awfully bright and the brown is awfully brown. So the two together kind of give me the color I want. You might use a little foundation to help blend all this out. I'm using a sponge, and here I'm grabbing some foundation to help blend the red and the browny color into the foundation. Sometimes I mix two colors together on my brush. I'm also looking at the blendable edge here, trying to make sure that that's kind of blending into my face as best as it can. Latex is a totally different texture from your skin, and it's very difficult to blend beautifully into the face. And like I said, some people's skin resists it more, and it can be a little bit more difficult. My skin is not too bad with it, but it's not too good either. Right, now I'm going to kind of drop shadow with red and then eventually with brown, all of the raised nubs. So that's going to make those nubs really pop out. Got that kind of reddy, blotchy, irritated color all over the burn, and now we're going to really pop the little sort of keloid bits that we made with the cotton. I've added some brown here in the drop shadow parts, and I've been using the sponge to kind of lift. And keep in mind, I am dabbing, I am not smearing with it. I'm just picking up some extra product to reveal some of the foundation underneath. And I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going back and adjusting any contouring that needs to be adjusted as I'm going. The wart now needs to be painted, and I'm just going to basically paint the whole thing red. Give it a little shadow on the underside. Make sure it's still stuck to your face. And it's all starting to come together, although I'm not sure my sweater matches. The last thing I'm doing is just kind of adjusting the contour where I feel like it's not enough. I feel like my nose needs a little more contour to balance out the look. Check it all over, blend it out, and we're done. Arrgh.